I thought growing old meant growing peaceful, that after decades together, we'd finally made it through the hard parts, the mistakes, the regrets, the storms. But then one morning, my wife, my Linda, looked me in the eyes and said, "Greg, you're just my routine. I need to feel alive again." And just like that, she left. For a man young enough to be our son, you think that kind of betrayal only happens when you're young and foolish. But what if I told you the deepest heartbreak of my life came at 70? And what followed wasn't anger. It was silence, regret, and a truth I never thought I'd have to face. That even at the end of the road, you can still be left behind. Stay with me, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about how easy it is to stop seeing the one person you swore to never let go. Welcome to Reddit Stories, where we share real stories from Reddit. My name is Gregory. I'm 70 years old now. I used to believe I understood everything there was to know about marriage. Until one morning, my wife, Linda, stood at the front door with a small suitcase and eyes that looked at me like I was nothing more than an old habit she'd outgrown. "I need to feel something again, Greg," she said softly. "Your comfort, your routine, but I need to feel alive." That was it. No shouting, no dramatic breakdown. Just a quiet goodbye from the woman who once swore we'd grow old together. Linda and I had been together for nearly 5 decades. We'd weathered storms that would have torn most couples apart, including my biggest mistake, cheating on her at 65, a choice I regretted every day since. But Linda forgave me, or at least I thought she did. We didn't rebuild something romantic after that, but we did find a kind of rhythm. We became companions. 2 older people doing crossword puzzles, grocery shopping together, walking slowly in the morning sun. It wasn't passionate love, but it was peaceful. I thought that was enough, until she started changing. Linda was always the type to stick with routine. Breakfast at 7, lavender tea before bed, still wrote grocery lists by hand, still folded our napkins into little triangles the way she learned back in 1978. But then one day, she said she wanted to join a yoga class. "I just need to stretch more," she smiled. Soon she was drinking green smoothies, going meatless, meditating, lighting candles, listening to lo-fi music, and quoting mindfulness podcasts. And to top it all off, she downloaded Instagram. Linda, my Linda, was uploading sunset pictures with captions like, "Healing begins within." At first, I was amused, even proud. Then, I started to feel like a shadow following a woman I no longer recognized. It all shifted the day I saw the message. She had left her phone on the kitchen counter. A message popped up from someone named Jay. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Don't forget your scarf. It's getting chilly," smiling face with smiling eyes. My chest tightened. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to believe it. Maybe Jay was just someone from her meditation class, a friend. I was trying to be better now, less suspicious, more trusting. That evening I asked, "Do you have plans tomorrow?" She smiled at me, the way you smile at a neighbor you barely know. Just yoga in the park. But I knew. 3 weeks later, I followed her. She didn't go to yoga. She went to a little cafe near the botanical garden. And there he was, Julian, young, tall, fit. He was holding a book and smiling like the world was built just for him. They talked. They laughed. She looked at him like he was a sunrise. I watched from across the street. And in that moment, I realized I had become exactly what she said. Routine. Predictable. A chair you sit in every day without thinking. That night, I cooked dinner like I always did. Linda came home. She kissed my cheek. "You made butternut squash? You remembered I liked that from Seattle." I nodded, and I looked at her, really looked, and I saw someone who had already left. Not physically, not yet, but in every way that mattered. I started waking up earlier than Linda, not to make coffee, not to read the news, just to sit there in the quiet. Before the woman I had shared nearly my whole life with woke up, and we played the parts we both no longer believed in. Linda still folded the laundry, still asked me what I wanted for dinner, still reminded me when the trash needed to go out, but none of it felt real anymore. It was like living inside a photograph, smiling faces and stillness. Until one afternoon, she came down dressed nicer than usual. Light makeup, a floral scarf, hair brushed smooth. "You gonna yoga?" I asked. "Yes," she smiled. "There's a group class in the park." "Who's teaching today?" "Julian," she said. That name, spoken out loud, the way it landed in the room, felt like someone set a match on dry leaves. That night, I couldn't sleep. I watched her breathing beside me. Calm, unaware, or pretending to be. I turned and whispered, "Linda, do you still love me?" She didn't move, didn't answer, but silence sometimes speaks louder than any word. The next morning, while I was cutting fruit, she stepped into the kitchen. Her tone was quiet, but her eyes didn't flinch anymore. "Greg, we need to talk." I braced myself. "Do you know what it feels like to be invisible to the one person who's supposed to see you?" I said nothing. "Greg, I forgave you. I stayed after you cheated. I tried to move forward. But since then, a part of me stopped living. Julian, he makes me feel like I matter again." I swallowed the bitterness rising in my throat. "He's young enough to be our son." "I know," she said gently. "But he sees me." She wasn't cruel. She wasn't cold. She was clear, and that hurt even more. That night, I had dinner alone. My own food, my own silence. And a woman who used to be my entire world was now a memory living in the other room. I didn't plan to see him, Julian, but fate's cruel that way. I was walking through the park when I saw them, Linda and him, sitting on our bench, the one we used to sit on every Sunday morning, the one where she told me she wanted a third child, the one where we sat silently after her father passed. Now she was sitting there with him. He was young, early 30s, confident in the effortless way youth allows. He wore a white shirt, held a book, and smiled at her like she was the only woman in the world. And she smiled back, not the way she smiled at me over dinner, not the way she smiled politely in the kitchen. This smile was real. I walked up. "Linda." She flinched. Julian turned around. He didn't look surprised. "Hi, I'm Julian," he said, offering his hand. I shook it, firm, maybe too firm. "Greg," I said, "I think you've heard of me." He nodded once. "Yes, Linda's told me about you." I looked at her. She would meet my eyes. "How old are you?" I asked. 34, he answered calm. "My son is 38. He didn't react. Linda finally looked up, just briefly. "Greg," she said, "please don't make this harder." "Harder?" I laughed, but there was no humor. "I watched you forgive me, stand by me, and now I get to watch you give everything we built to someone half your age." Julian said nothing, maybe wisely. "Do you know what her favorite tea is when she's sad?" I asked him, "Do you know how she hums when she folds laundry? Do you know what her mother whispered before she passed?" Silence. Linda put a hand on Julian's knee, not for affection, for steadiness. "Greg, this isn't about you anymore," she said softly. "This is about me finally choosing something for me." I stood up. "I thought you were the one who'd never change, Linda." I looked at Julian. Turns out, even memories could be replaced. And I walked away. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat in the dark, realizing I was no longer angry, just quietly, terribly hollow. A week later, Linda moved out. No ceremony, no shouting, just a key left on the table and a bag by the door. The house was quiet, too quiet. My daughter came by the next day, concerned. "Dad, what's going on?" I told her the truth. "Your mom left. She's seeing someone." "At her age?" she said, shocked. "At any age," I replied. She was silent. Then, softly, "You hurt her once. Maybe now she's trying to find herself again." James, my son, was angrier. "You're telling me Mom is dating a guy my age?" "Not my choice," I said. "Are you mad?" "No, Just sad. He paused. It's like everything I believed about marriage is just gone. I had nothing to say to that because I felt the same. Nights were the worst. Her pillows still smelled like her. Her mugs were still on the shelf. Her reading glasses still resting beside the bed. But Linda was gone, and all I had were memories and a silence that echoed. I started writing again. Dear Linda, you said I was a habit, a routine. Maybe you were right, but I'd give anything to be that again, because routine was safe. Routine was ours. And now, I sit in this house built for two, learning how to live as one. I stopped expecting her to come back, stopped refreshing messages, stopped hoping the phone would buzz with her name. I just lived. Walks in the park, tea for one, folding laundry I barely wore. Then, one morning, my daughter dropped by with an envelope. Mom sent this, she said. It was a letter. Greg, Julian's gone. He told me I should find someone who truly sees me. And I think, despite everything, that person was always you. I'm not asking to come back. Just saying thank you for the years, for letting me go with grace, for the kind of love that survives even after it breaks. If you ever pass the old bench and see a gray-haired woman sitting alone, maybe sit beside her. Not like before. Just as someone who once walked beside her through a lifetime. The next morning, I walked to the park. She was there. No yoga mat. No smile. Just her. I sat beside her. We didn't speak. We didn't touch. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. Maybe love at 70 isn't about holding hands or sleeping in the same bed. Maybe it's just about presence. I loved her then. I love her still. But now, I love her quietly, from across a park bench.